You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with, as always, former England fast bowler Steve Harmison for the usual mix of news, views, and recently a bit more gloom. So England are facing an almost impossible task of winning the Ashes after going 2-0 down. That's only happened once in history after their 8-wicket defeat in Brisbane. We'll hear from Ben Stokes and ask, along with almost everyone else, if this regime is now at a crossroads. Australian cricket writer Jarrod Kimber joins us to talk about the Australian view of that test match and the future of Nathan Lyon after he was left out of the side for the first time at home in 12 years. The new Hampshire head coach, Russell Domingo, will join us after he was appointed on a 2-year contract last week. And as always, we'll round up the week's other big stories and bring you the final word. So there is plenty to come over the next hour. This is Following On. As I said, Harmy, only once has either side come back from 2-0 down to win an Ashes. Ben Stokes has said that he hasn't given up hope, and nobody in his dressing room has given up hope. Well, he would. He would say that. I think some of us may have done that.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a long way back. That's not just 2-0. That's. I think technically it's a long way back. I think mentally it's a long way back. From a character point of view, it's a long way back. Personnel, I think it could be a long way back. I believe in Ben when he'll say we'll never give up hope, because the character of Ben Stokes, I don't think he will. Problem is, we haven't got 11 Ben Stokes. We've got Ben Stokes, Joe Root. You know, these are the Test match characters of battle-hardened players who have given themselves the best chance to get it right in the position to play. And I think the rest, it was worrying what he said after the game. Really worrying what he said after the game, because that's something he has not got close to saying in 3.5 years of being in charge of England. He's always been ultra positive, always been backing his players. He was implying a few things which, I mean, that's a bit worrying and scary.
Okay, well, before we talk about that, let's hear what you're referring to.
Saying that teams who come to Australia can't be, soft or weak, whatever it may be, because that's how it is out here. It is a tough place to come, but I see it as there's no room for that in a dressing room that I'm in charge of. So yeah, double-edged thing there. Can't come to Australia and be weak, but you also can't be in my dressing room if you are. And there is none of that. We pick people on ability and skill, but we also pick people on character and mentality. A few things that obviously need to be addressed when I think on that, but I know deep down that we've got characters who I know that can stand up to what we've got to do over the next 3 games.
That's England captain Ben Stokes, and that is a comment that, Harmy, you caused a sharp intake of breath, and that's 48 hours later from you, just thinking about it. No room for weak players in the England side. It does rather point towards changes in personnel for the third test in Adelaide, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You know, it sounds like there's going to be a few changes. I'm not sure where they get them from. You were at the Oval, weren't you, Manners, for the India test match? You know, is Josh Tongue coming in cold? Will he be in the same boat as what these three have been in and not have enough overs under their belt? And we've seen what happened at the Oval when he wasn't quite ready. So they've got some huge headaches when it comes to selection, and that's just on their abilities point of view from a cricketing selection point of view. That's not covering what Ben Stokes is thinking and where he's gone with that comment of there's some weak players, because that's having a go at people and saying, well, we don't think they're mentally ready and up for this fight. That's more worrying than anything where they are technically. Do you know what I mean? So Bethel, does he come in for Pope? There's a possibility. I think Potts, for me, he is one of the only ones that can consistently hit a line in length, that bit fuller, where they were all far too short. Even Atkinson and Archer, who bowled nicely with a newish ball, were still, half a metre short. So I really don't know what to make of this. I was actually shell-shocked, Manners, over the course of this last, 2 or 3 days. More of disappointment than anger of where England have found themselves in the position they found themselves in. Because I actually give these lads a chance. I believe they had a great chance of winning. And, I mean, they're going to lose the Ashes quicker than what Nasser Hussain's team did. And I was in that. And it was embarrassing.
It's hard to put your finger on it, really. But a number of, I think, very respectable commentators and journalists have said that actually it comes down to the basics: hitting a line and length, catching catches, and leaving the ball and not driving on the up. It's like Australia did the basics. 10 out of the 11 of their team played either 2 or 3 Sheffield Shield games. So they had a lot of competitive cricket under them. I mean, I understand. How many times over the last 2 or 3 years have we said that was a poor choice of words from the coaching staff or the players, or the captain? But when Brendan McCullum said, if anything, we were over-prepared, if he'd said, you know what, we put 5 days of hard graft in at the Gabba nets and the Allan Border field, and if anything, the players may have been physically jaded, then that might have, that could have slipped through. That could have slipped by without causing the controversy of him saying, if anything, we were over-prepared.
Well, the way I picked up on this, there's a couple of things picking up on it. One, he's trying to take pressure off his team. He's created a headline where the next 2 or 3 days it's going to be over-prepared. So we're not going to be talking as much about Crawley's inability to hit a 5 metre length ball, back into the ground or through sort of cover point, as opposed to trying to hit it straight back down the ground. Ollie Pope the same. Harry Brook chasing wide ones. Our ability not being able to catch the ball, and our ability not to be able to put 2 balls in the same place on a regular basis. That's what should have been talked about. But we're going to constantly hear about England being over-prepared. Now, if England were over-prepared with 12 days between first and second test match, and they practiced for 5 days, all of us that are having a go at them before the first test match saying they weren't prepared enough, I think we had a valued argument there, because if 5 practice days in 12 days going into a ping ball test match is being over-prepared, what on earth did they do before the first test match? In between that, 2-day hit with 3-day hit with, the Lions and all their mates in a very, very less hectic or intense environment. So if they were over-prepared going into this one, what on earth were they going into the first one? So, look, I think there was a lot of deflection from Brendan McCullum trying to take pressure off his team. And actually, I think a poor choice of words, whatever. Stokes had a poor choice of words when he said has-beens. He rode that one back. Will we hear Brendan row it back? Comes back to what Kesey said 6 months ago when he talked about Ben Duckett. He talked about the England cricket team in the media. Some things we've just got to toe the party line. Some things we've got to hold our counsel, and sometimes we've got to stop saying stupid things. Don't think the message is coming down from the managing director of international cricket to the players that he's employing, or the people that he's employing.
By the way, England need to take the Adelaide Test into day 5 to match Nasser Hussain's record of losing the Ashes in 11 days.
And that was, but man, that's the thing that's annoying me even more. It's like everybody has a go at Nasser's team that lost that, and you're going, that was against Warne, McGrath, Gillespie, Lee, Gilchrist, Hayden, Langer, Ponton, Steve Waugh. I'm missing somebody out. But Darren Lehman, Martin Love, I think that was the 12 that played against us in that 2003 side. We are largely getting beat by great bit of keeping up the stumps from Alex Carey, Travis Head, Steve Smith, Mitchell Stark, a little bit of Scott Boland. But that's it. That's who we're getting beat off. Our biggest team. That's part of the people that we're getting beat off. The majority of the time, we're getting beat by ourselves.
There's so much peripheral stuff, isn't there? I mean, we talk about the basics, but that when you lose, like England have, in the manner that they have, stories like Jofra Archer arriving with a pillow. I mean, if England had won at Perth, the same commentators, I reckon, would have been saying, well, that's quite sensible. That's showing confidence in the batsman. That's like your caddy taking your putter out on the tee of a par 3.
Exactly. I didn't mind the pillar. I don't mind them going to Noosa to play golf. They need to get away. I didn't mind the pillar bit. But, I mean, some of the other stuff, where the way they've been speaking is, they just don't help themselves.
No, they don't. So let's leave it for now, because you don't really know. Normally, you've got a really strong idea of who might be in and who might be out. Your next career is going to be as a selector, but you haven't got any answers or suggestions, have you?
I haven't got a clue. Honestly, I haven't got a clue. I'm trying to work out which batter I drop which batter is going to get dropped because Jacob Bethel will come in. I mean, there are a few people muting Jacks going up the order. I mean, I wouldn't be massively in favour of that. I mean, they've invested heavily on Shoaib Bashir, and then they've pushed him to one side, sent him to play for the Lions and got belted for 100. So I don't think Bashir can come back in. I thought Jacks did quite well, so he deserves to keep his place. And it'll be, again, you're going to make a big rift between the batters and bowlers. Because what's going to happen is we're 2-0 down. We've largely down to the fact that we're not able to drive. We're not even able to sort of execute our shots correctly in Australian conditions, and it's going to be 2 bowlers that's going to get left out. And I mean, you want to portray being a tight knit group, but all of a sudden, if I'm getting left out and I'm getting made an scapegoat, not getting rested, I'm getting made an scapegoat because I've just had 12 days off. I'm getting made an scapegoat from the first 2 test matches, and you're still picking a bloke who is averaging 14 in Ashes cricket. You're still picking a bloke who keeps driving balls to slip, missing, straight ball. All this thing comes between batters and bowlers, and that makes things a lot worse in the dressing room.
Right, let's get an Australian voice. Very familiar one, Jarrod Kimber, to talk about, the Gabba and whatever else comes to mind. Jarrod, of course, one of the game's most accomplished analysts. But Jarrod, is there a danger that we can overanalyse Australia's victory and England's defeat and their demise to 2-0 down? Fact is, Australia have just batted better, bowled better, and dropped less catches, haven't they?
Are you afraid we're going to overanalyse in the way that England over-prepared for the last game, Manners? Is that the issue that you have here? It is funny. I just looked at the stats. Australia's top 3 in the year prior to the Ashes test averaged 24 combined. So, all 3 of them. And that was what? Sam Constas, Usman Khawaja, Cameron Green was in there for a while. Marnus might have been there. I might be missing some other names. Maybe McSweeney might be in that as well. And they've averaged, 45 in the Ashes so far, with basically an accidental opening partnership and Marnus coming back to form. Maybe the biggest problem was that Marnus just wasn't in form before. I don't know. But yeah, I get your point. When it comes down to it, if you bat better, bowl better, and catch better, there's a chance you'll win.
Is it simple that Australia are just going to get stronger and is steamroller and England lose 5-0?
I don't know how much you've already covered this, Army, but it is ridiculous that they're 2-0 down when Australia's great 4-man bowling attack has not actually been assembled yet. And it's not even close to being assembled. The last test, they were actually taking the mickey by dropping Nathan Lyon. By the way, everyone told me that wouldn't happen. I told you guys it would. But they went in without Cummins, Hazelwood, and Lyon, and still dominated that test match. So you're right. One of them's going to come back at least. Probably Lyon and Cummins might come in. Looks like a better team on paper to me. So if the form holds up, I think England are in a lot of trouble. Every sort of question I had about England, which was, is their bowling? Remember, you and I had all these debates. I said, is their bowling attack skillful enough for modern Australian wickets? And I've been talking for ages about Smith and Brooke are probably due a little bit of a regression because they've had such a great start. That's gone completely the other way. And every question I had about Australia, it's like, it doesn't matter. Michael Neser will come in and take wickets. And Brendan Doggett will take wickets. The Australians don't even have the batting order that they wanted in the second innings of the first test, right? The opening partnership is completely by accident, and yet everything is working.
There's a video clip, isn't there, of Rob Key talking about picking from county cricket or not picking from county cricket, saying it just doesn't happen at international cricket. You can't bowl at 75 miles an hour with the keeper up and expect to have success. And I suppose it's been shown a million times. I suppose that means it's gone viral. But that's pretty much what Michael Neser did. Do tell our listeners and viewers that there is a bit more to Michael Neser, and he's slightly better than a county trundler with the keeper up.
To be fair to him, he got to 140 Ks a couple of times. I don't think that's the exact kind of cricket Rob. I mean, no one is going out on a limb to defend Rob Key at the moment. No. Probably not even Rob Key himself.
I think Keezy's talking about Darren Stevens,
which is fair.
Which is he's one of his mates. I think he was. I don't think Keezy was being facetious or anything. I think he was talking about the pitches being flat, and you might need a little bit more than a keeper standing up, and that's what you tend to get in county cricket. So,
but Neser isn't, with all due respect to the great Darren Stevens, he's not a Darren Stevens anyway. No. He's a bit quicker than that. He got a wicket with a short ball in this game when he got Zach Crawley out, although that one even slowed down on him. But the reason the keeper's up the stumps is that Alex Carey is just getting better and better as a wicket keeper every time we see him. My whole this is the greatest time in my life, man, is that all my social media threads now are just showing me highlights of Alex Carey up at the stumps. I love wicket keepers up the stumps, but we had people bowling at 135, 136, 137, and he was taking it beautifully. That stumping he almost got of Brooke was crazy.
The catch of Stokes as well.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you look at Neser, he looks a lot more. I mean, he's so much more skillful than any of these England bowlers. There isn't an England bowler even close to him. He bowled 3 or 4 different kinds of spells in this Test match, and we're not seeing that from the England players. They're bowling this same spell over and over again, hoping that for better results. So that was the question mark I had beforehand. It wasn't that they didn't have depth; it was that everyone kind of does a similar thing, and that's unfortunately what has happened so far.
Yeah, I mean, I know Keezy's going to get some stick because of that comment, and obviously Neser was standing up the stumps, and we've seen Cameron Ponsonby's tweet, which I thought was hilarious. I thought that was very good. But I think if you're looking like and trying to relate to county cricket, I think you're doing a disservice to Alex Carey, because I think he was absolutely magnificent behind them stumps. And what it does is it keeps the batter in his crease, and it puts a lot more pressure on. And then I mean the partnerships I think Australia bowl with were far superior than what England's bowl with, and that'd be the interesting part of it is the narrative going into the next Test match. Cummins is back, Smith's 2-0 up as captain. They think differently, they act differently as captain. There'll be no question, will there, of leaving the status quo and Cummins coming back as just a bowler?
I think the best thing really is for Cummins to come back as captain and as a bowler. So doing both of his normal jobs, but make sure that Smith is still involved. And I think there was issues at times because Cummins was not worried about Smith, but Cummins is a very pragmatic person who plans and does everything, and Smith's a bit more spontaneous. That's probably what Cummins needs, though. He probably needs someone in his ear sometimes just saying, how about we throw Travis Head up? I wasn't surprised that Travis Head opened when Smith was captain, when Cummins wasn't. And I think Andrew McDonald said, we've been talking about this for ages, whatever. But it's interesting, isn't it, that was the moment at which it happened. But just to get back to the Alex Carey point, because I think this is really interesting. When Bazball started, one of the big changes was that you couldn't bowl your natural length over and over again. And we saw at times with Blundell in New Zealand and with Alex Carey, where they're just like, we're good enough wicket keepers, we'll come up, right? Boland's bowling 135 kilometres an hour, heavy balls into the pitch, and he's taking them beautifully. The skill of that is really helpful, and that changes what England want to do. So everything England have wanted to do, Australia have found a way to nullify, and you've got to give them credit.
Talking of Cummins, did you see the footage before the Test match of him telling Nathan Lyon that he wasn't playing? I mean, I think Cummins is the coolest captain of the modern era, but I swear he turned a shade paler.
I can't believe you would say that with Tamba Bavuma. He might be listening to this, Manners. He'll be very upset to not get your coolest captain award. Yeah, look, it probably wasn't handled brilliantly, but the truth is, I thought Cricket Australia played a blinder with this, which is they got heaps of bad press, but they let Nathan Lyon say that he was upset on camera, on the ground, and then George Bailey could come out and say, yeah, he should be upset. He's one of the greatest players we've ever had, and we didn't pick him in a side. We want him to be hungry. We want him to be desperate. But yeah, Cummins didn't look particularly comfortable in that situation, and maybe it should have been Andrew McDonald or George Bailey or whatever that sort of situation is. But we knew that they were coming to this. I've been writing about it for a year, Manners, that eventually Nathan Lyon was going to be in a position where he wasn't going to play because they don't bowl him. It's not because he's not good; they just don't bowl him. At a certain point, he's the handbag that you don't need.
I didn't have a problem with what I don't know about you, Manners, but I didn't have a problem what Lyon said. I thought it was quite refreshing that somebody would come out and say, right, I'm disappointed. This is the Ashes. I've got 500, nearly 600 Test match wickets. I really want to play, not because this England side is not very good. It's just I'm Nathan Lyon. I should be able to play with a pink ball. So I didn't have an issue with that. Somebody might have an issue is Usman Khawaja. Is that him done? And when you look at the likes of McSweeney, who got big runs against the Lions, Jay Richardson. He's not young, but he's younger than the current stock. Are they pushing to get into contention for the next two Test matches? Because I can't see any of them coming in for Adelaide. But McSweeney, Khawaja, is he gone?
I think that Khawaja was going to go out if they won the World Test Championship final. And I could be wrong, but I certainly heard some very strong rumours that he was thinking about going then. Even at the end of the Indian series, there were some rumours about it. Cricket Australia just kept asking him to come back. I think he was, I wouldn't say convinced. I think he'd be unfortunate if they kept asking him to come back and then didn't let him go out in his own way. But where do you fit him in the side at the moment, Army? I don't know how he fits in anymore. So at the moment, they've stumbled on to this dynamic-looking opening partnership. Now, look, it's 2 matches, and England have decided that everything needs to be back of a length and that stumps don't matter anymore. And we could, there's been Bryden Carter's bowled some of the worst first change spells we've seen. Like, we can understand all of that. But at the same time, like, where does Khawaja fit into this team at the moment? So I would, looking at it at the moment, maybe they might move head back to number 5 for one Test later on in the series to give Khawaja a one final game.
Will they give them a final? It's not like in Australia to give him one final game, 4-0 up going into Sydney.
No, but it might be because they asked him to hang around, they might feel a little bit differently than they would normally. I could be wrong. These are just things I've heard, around the traps over the last year and a half or so. But no, you're right. Normally they wouldn't do it. It's great to see that they've got batting options now. McSweeney, I thought he deserved to be picked for Australia last year. Then he got boomer'd and they dropped him. I was like, well, you're supposed to get boomer'd. It's like when all those, Manners will remember, all those left-handers from South Africa would go to India and they play 3 Test matches and Ashwin would get him out for fun and then they wouldn't pick him again. It's like, you're not supposed to make runs against Ashwin. You're not supposed to make runs against Bumrah or Stark at the moment. So I think Australia finally has some options. Jai Richardson's incredible. He probably got fit at the wrong time because he probably would have played 2 Tests now if he'd been fit. I mean, Doggett's been okay, but Jai Richardson is a completely different level to Brendan Doggett.
Nice that India returned the compliment 10 years later and picked 6 left-handers for Simon Harmer. Jarrod, so do you foresee, very quickly, honestly, 10 seconds, do you foresee a bit more grind and grunt from England in the rest of the series, with the bat, I mean? A bit more accuracy with the ball?
I don't understand why they're bowling short. So surely at one stage when they're having a beer on the golf course, someone has to say should we pitch it up? I expect them to make slightly more runs than they have at the moment. So yes, I expect there to be them to be better for the rest of the series, unless their heads are gone. And I don't know that, that's the one thing from London we can't tell. Matt Pryor on the TV seemed to be suggesting that their heads were going quite a bit. But you know what Matt is like. He loves that stuff. But they should be better in the last 3 Test matches. I'm not sure that will matter if Australia get better as a team anyway.
Exciting news, Russ. Just for the benefit of some of our listeners and viewers who might not know, your relationship with A.D. Birrell goes back many, many years. He appointed you as assistant at franchise level, then you appointed him as your assistant and you became South African coach. You go back a long way, and I'm assuming that that his recommendation of you is confirmation that Hampshire were very happy with what they had, and that they want more of the same. So you've got a 2-year contract, and I guess you'll be able to contact AD if necessary on his farm in the Eastern Cape for the next couple of years if you need to know anything.
How's it, Neil? Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me. Yep, look, I've known 80 since I've been about 14. So when I started working as a youth cricket coach at St. George's Park in 1996, 80 was the youth cricket manager and I was the youth cricket coach and he was my boss. And then obviously he became the A side coach. I became the B side coach. He then went abroad, came back. He worked with me at the Warriors. Then he worked with me in South Africa. Then I worked with him at the Sunrisers. So we've had a long relationship. And look, he's one of the great coaches. He's an amazing cricket coach, but more importantly, he's an amazing human being. And we chat every day. I'm actually getting him up to Johannesburg tomorrow to come do a little bit of work with some of my Lions players. So, yeah, we've got a long-standing relationship. And he's been one of my great mentors and a guy I respect highly because he's just a great bloke.
Russell, about what is about Hampshire? Because what do you know about Hampshire? They're not quite in a transition. James Vince obviously doesn't play 4-day cricket anymore. He's still playing around the white ball team. There's a few of the older guys getting on a little bit. They've got some exciting players. What do you know? And do you know much about the Hampshire players?
So, Steve, that's crazy because I actually feel like I've been coaching the team for 4 years because I've been chatting to AD about it for the last 4 years because he's been there for 7 years. So I sort of know the ins and outs and the challenges and the positives and the James Vince doesn't play red ball cricket. And so it's a team that's been really competitive over the last couple of years. I think maybe 3-4 years ago, they were maybe one ball away from winning the county championship for the first time in 50 years. And Lancashire won it the next day because they had the opposition 9 down. So they've been thereabouts all the time, having won a T20, lost 2 white ball finals last year. But look, I mean, Hashim's played at Hampshire, Dale Staines played at Hampshire. I've touched base with a lot of those guys. And they say, like in footballing terms, there's Man United, there's Liverpool, there's Chelsea, there's Arsenal, there's Man City. I suppose in county circuits, you're looking at Yorkshire, Lancashire, you're looking at Surrey, you're looking at, I suppose, who's the other one? Yorkshire, Warwickshire. And then you're looking at Hampshire as one of the big 5, I'm assuming, I suppose, with Nottinghamshire. So they're a county that's steeped in history. Some great players have played there. They've been there and thereabouts. Maybe have fallen off a little bit in red ball cricket. And I mean, they saw the personalities and the sort of atmosphere around that club sort of sits with me as a club that I think I can really fit into and sort of take forward over the next couple of years.
Lots of time in international cricket, and you've been coaching. You've had great success. Is county cricket the fulfilment of a long-held ambition, or did you ever see yourself coaching at county level? Did you want to?
Neil, I mean, you've done a lot of interviews with me when I was the national coach. When I think about it, I mean, I coached the AFCO when I was 35 or 36, which is like pretty young at 2012. And as you coach longer, I think county cricket, like all players, when they're playing at the highest level, international cricket, they all sort of want to finish off and play at some county. So as a coach, I think I've coached in the subcontinent now. I've coached in South Africa. They say you haven't really coached in the subcontinent. I think you also probably haven't coached until you've done a county gig because it's a hell of a roller coaster and a hell of a lot of cricket to be playing. I mean, we play in South Africa 7 domestic 4-day games in a year. We'll be playing 14 there. So as a coach, it's going to be a great challenge and a great learning experience for me and something as I think any coach would want to try and experience, having the experience of coaching a big county in English county cricket, because that's generally where it all happens, it seems.
You mentioned coach. I mean, we're talking about a different coach here, and that's a bus that you're going to sit on for quite a while. If you think you think county cricket is, 7 first-class games in South Africa and 14 in England, but it's not just the 14 in England. It's the white ball stuff. It's the T20 stuff. I mean, how are you prepared for that? Because I was 18 years at Durham, and we were miles away from everywhere. Hampshire's not in the middle of the country. It's going to be some long bus journeys. They can have their pros, but they can also have their cons, especially from a mentality point of view if you're trying to blood young players as well.
Yeah, look at those. I suppose that's all the learnings I'm going to have to experience and come to terms with. Talking to Carl Abbott, he says, "Us, you're going to be getting home at 2 o'clock in the mornings after 6, 7 hour bus journey straight after game. We're going to maybe have a T20 the next day. So make sure that you don't come in here all energized, because after 3 weeks you'll be blown. You've got to sort of pace yourself." We play 7 domestic games in every single format in South Africa. And I was just saying to somebody an hour or two ago that I sort of miss that sort of. We don't have crowds in our cricket in South Africa. There's nobody coming to watch domestic cricket. We can play a domestic game at Hampshire and maybe have 5,000-6,000 people at a 4-day game. We've got 10 in South Africa. A T20 game in South Africa between the Titans and the Lions, the two biggest teams, will maybe have 100 people. There are 20,000 people at the Oval. So I've sort of missed that sort of energy and intensity in coaching, that sort of pressure, because it is a little bit lower key in South Africa, based purely on the sort of interest that is around domestic cricket in South Africa, which is really sad because it's still a really good product.
Russell, you mentioned about having energy and coming in energy and everything that goes with it. It reminds me of the story. Remember the Doug Bollinger, the left arm seamer from Australia? We played first game of the season at Worcester. I'm told manners this many times before, and he had an abundance of energy after about 2 days of this game. He ran from the boundary. He was like longer than Michael Holden, and you're going, I mean, he's not even factored in May and June, never mind September, when it comes to stuff like that. Your squad's going to be in a transition. Have you got overseas sorted? Have you identified? Have you heard about some good young players that's potentially going to have to give you some energy when you do go from a difficult red ball section into white ball section, then back into red ball section?
Obviously, I've actually got a meeting tomorrow with Giles White. He's actually in South Africa. He's coming to our domestic game, and then I'm going for dinner with him tomorrow night. So those are the sort of things we will be touching on. I know that there has been an Australian signed for the first 7 4-day games. I don't think it's my place to mention who that person is yet until it's officially over the line, but someone that I think could offer something with the bat and with the ball will be really important for us. And then there are some really good players. I mean, I've spoken in depth to 80, the likes of Ben Brown. He's like really highly thought of. Albert, Tom Prest has sort of not had a great season last season, but he's highly thought of. There's young Turner, the fast bowler, was originally from Hilton College in South Africa. So there's a lot of good young potential there. Obviously, James Finn's being a big loss in the red ball competitions, but obviously still one of the best white ball players in England. So look, it's a team that's sort of, I wouldn't say in transition, but they've probably got a few 27, 28-year-olds now. We've got to lose the tag of being young, promising players and take on the roles of what Liam Dawson and James Vince has done and become really hardened professionals and match winners for the county, because I think there's sort of a couple of players who are maybe averaging mid-30s, early 30s with a lot of potential at 27, 28. You now need to sort of kick on into those higher 40 sort of averages in that sort of level.
At the Lions, where you are now, finishing off the summer, your batting and bowling coaches are Hashim Amla and Alan Donald. So Shane Berger and Jimmy Adams have got some, well, they've got some big shoes to fill. How did you select those two as your assistants at Hampshire? And do you think Hash might have been useful to the England team in Australia? Some batting advice.
I forget about batting advice. Maybe batting.
Yeah.
Look, I think Jimmy Adams is. I mean, he's a sort of a legend at Hampshire. I think he's played over 200-300 games for Hampshire in the past. So it's great to have somebody there that knows the system, has been in the system, knows the ins and outs of the clubs, can be really handy in that. And then Shane Berger, I think is a really good appointment. He's going to be the bowling coach, but also going to be a bowling coach who works as a batting coach with the lower order, because he was the batting coach at Somerset. So I think two really good appointments they've made there by the Hampshire board. And I think they've both got great energy. I know 80s works a lot with Jimmy Adams and speaks really highly of him. I know Shane Berger from his time in South Africa. So just a really good bloke, and has coached Scotland, so has got some international coaching experience and has obviously done a great job with Somerset, having won the Blast last year. And then, look, I think work ethic, great energy, honest, trustworthy guys are always guys you want to sort of have in your backroom staff. And by all accounts, those are two guys who tick all of those boxes. So really excited to work with them and learn as much as I can from them because they've been in the county system a little bit longer. And then regarding Hash and I've actually mentioned Hash this morning. I said, Hash, what were the things you focused on batting in England? I mean, batting in Australia against Australia. He said, Russ, I always made sure I was strong off my legs. I only looked to score on the leg side. I looked for a little back foot punch, but I never looked to drive the ball up through the covers unless it was under my eyes type of thing. So those are the sort of basics he tried to employ there. And it's not rocket science, but it's sort of what has served him really well. And those basics, I suppose, stay true for most countries when you're batting, I suppose.
And finally, Russ, will you stay at the Lions, or is the Hampshire job 12 months of the year?
No, I love my Lions. I've got an amazing boss here, an amazing group of players, and a great support staff. So it's been a great 3 years for me here thus far. So I'm going to split my time. I'm going to do 6 months in the UK and 6 months at the Lions. And then there's no 13 months in the season, but we play a little cricket here. I'll still do a stint with us with the SAT 20 side as well. So it's going to be a busy year, Neil, but we've just had so little cricket in South Africa. I'm really looking forward to having another busy year because we're crying out for more cricket, crying out for more games, a little bit more intensity in our cricket because it's just, there's some great players in our country, but we're just playing in front of nobody at the moment. That's really sad. So I'm going to be continuing with my Lions gig because it's been a really great honor and privilege working them, but really excited to get to Hampshire and give them 100% of my time for those 6 months a year as well.
Russ, give me all my best to the Lions. They looked after me brilliantly I only played 2 games.
You spent a bit of time in Poch, and I know you played 1 or 2 games for them, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I played 2 games. I wanted to play. I was supposed to be there for 4. Me and Otis Gibson went. I got injured in the middle of summer, and then we went to Sri Lanka. That was the problem. We were going to Sri Lanka, and I played 2 games. And Mosey said, you're going to have to come. And I'm like, I'm actually quite enjoying, even though, I mean, I've told Manners this millions of times. The first 2 games was supposed to be, I think we're supposed to play at Durban, the Natal Durban side at the Wanderers. And then, then the Cape Cobras at Newlands. And the week I got there, the Wanderers game was getting redone, so I ended up in Potchefstroom. And they shifted the Cape Cobras game to Paarl. So I mean, I was like, Mosey, no, I'm going to enjoy this. This is 4 games. I'll come just before the first test, and then I swapped Paarl for Candy, and I mean, it was unbelievable. But I loved it. They looked after me so well. Neil McKenzie is my hero, Jimmy Cook, and I've got nothing but great things to say about everybody in Joburg.
And we've got at full strength, yeah. I mean, we've got a seriously good side. I mean, like the likes of Frickleton and Mulder and Hamza and Teba Bavuma and like the list goes on and on. We've got a really powerhouse side when all available, which doesn't happen often, but a really good system that's been put in place here and been a successful team with a great CEO and great facilities. So it's probably the best domestic side to be working for in South Africa at the moment. So I'm very blessed and privileged in that aspect.
Let's talk about the West Indies. We all love a good, positive West Indian story. They batted out 163.3 overs to secure that draw against New Zealand in the first Test match in Christchurch. Absolutely stunning. Nobody saw that coming. Justin Greaves scored an unbeaten 202 from 388 balls. But how about Kemar Roach? 58 not out off 233. Do you know at one point he went 78 balls without scoring? He blocked 78 without even nicking one or inside edging it past the keeper. I mean, that's a courageous effort.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was a brilliant effort by everybody in the West Indies. I think we're helped by Alex Wolff. I think Tom Latham. I think he asked politely Wolfie to get his finger out of his pocket at a couple of occasions. But fair play, Lady Luck, whatever. They were brilliant. Shai Hope, Greaves, Kemar Roach, 58 off 233. I mean, that must have been torture to be bowling on that surface to Kemar to sort of for him to bat that long. But hey, I mean, they do things unbelievably spectacular, don't the West Indies? I mean, they get bowled out for 50, and then they go and save a game, getting 100 facing 163 overs. So, I mean, what Scott Boland faced 72 balls at the Wacker. Kemar Roach 58 off 233. I mean, Greaves, he played brilliantly well against a good attack as well. I mean, that is a good attack, the New Zealand attack. So, fair play to the West Indies. Hopefully they've got something to build on. They do well across in New Zealand, don't they? They've got a great record in New Zealand of the West Indies. So, fair play to them.
It was a good attack until Matt Henry and Nathan Smith were injured. I think Michael Bracewell bowled about 60 overs unproductively. But anyway, well done, West Indies. And, we wish them well in the second and third test matches. 3 test series, that's also good news. Let's talk about the England Lions. They lost by an innings to Australia A in their 4-day game, which, I mean, it was a very impressive performance from Australia A, to be fair. Asa Tribe made an unbeaten 129. Jacob Bethel did make 71. I don't know whether that's enough reason for England to shoehorn him into the test side for the Adelaide. But Shoaib Bashir, you mentioned this a little earlier, none for 115, got belted. And Matt Fisher, none for 105. You wouldn't really want to be giving any off-spinner his first game when you're 2-0 down and going to Adelaide.
Not with the square boundaries that Adelaide have got. No, I just don't see how Shoaib Bashir, as much as Ben Stokes said before the Queensland Brisbane Test, that Shoaib Bashir is our spinner and he will be our number 1 spinner. I think they went and sent him to bowl at the Australia A side, hoping that he'd pick up some confidence, pick up some wickets, and potentially give the Lions some control. And unfortunately for Shoaib, he's done neither, and I think there's a lot of scratch and head moments. It was a very, very good, very experienced Australia A side. Nathan McSweeney got a double 100. You had the likes of Jai Richardson playing, who I think both of them, there's a potential that both of them could play a test match of these next 3 in the Ashes if there's an injury or a loss of form. But it's not England's. It's England's Lions. It's not England's sort of next best side, if you want, because I think there's a lot of county cricketers which I think probably would be next cabs off the rank rather than to play in some of these young lads. It's a good experience for these young lads to play in Australia, but unfortunately, when you come up against a strong side like what an experienced side that Australia A have, it was always going to be tough at Allan Border Field where it is flat. But Asa Tribe, a brilliant innings, and has Jacob 71. Is that enough to get him into the side? I think it probably is, I think it probably is. So, we'll see what happens. But Bethel, Pope, I mean, we said right at the very start, which one do you want to average 25?
And also, Harmy, Gary Kirsten's been unveiled as a team consultant for Namibia in the build-up to next year's T20 World Cup. The IPL's takeover of English cricket continues with confirmation that the Oval Invincibles will be unveiled as MI, Mumbai Indians London, in the next couple of days. The reason I mentioned Gary Kirsten's appointment is I wonder whether England, would they go back to him to be test coach? Do you remember him telling us on this programme that he flew over, he was invited for an interview by Rob Key, and he thought it was a formality, he thought it was a rubber stamping exercise, and turned up in his overnight flight, and I think he was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and he was, to his surprise, found that it was actually a formal interview. And he was asked, so, well, where's your presentation? What have you got to say for yourself? And he said, I haven't got a presentation.
Yeah, he didn't have a presentation. I think that that happened to him before as well. So whether he'll come back for third time, I'll be very surprised if he does come back a third time. McCullum's not out of a job yet, but I mean, if it does go awry and England do lose the Ashes and, heaven forbid it loses at 5-0, then I'm not sure the coach hangs around. I think he'd be the one to be sort of made away the fall guy. The captain has to stay, and I think even Kesey might hold on, but I think the coach would be the one that would be on offer. And now he's on coach of all 3 formats, and there's a World Cup coming around the corner, but I think the jungle drum and the noise will be massive. So England might be looking for a new coach in January. Whether Gaz comes back again, hey, I'd like him to, because I think the one thing we've had, I think, when we've been successful in English cricket, we've had a deep thinker as a coach. I know I didn't always get on with Duncan Fletcher, but he was a deep thinker. Andy Flower, we know and love Andy Flower, don't we, Manners? And I didn't always get on with Andy Flower as well. I think it must be me. And we know Andy's a deep thinker, and he's a serial winner because he's a deep thinker. England might have to go back to a deep thinker, and Gary Kirsten, as you know him more than me, Manners, he is a very, very deep thinker, and I think him and somebody like Jason Gillespie wouldn't be a bad option to help rebuild this side. If and it's a big if, we as an England cricket team, we need rebuilding. As for the MI London, I mean, it's getting further and further away from tribalism, isn't it? The 100 competition, it's getting further and further away from the actual. This is Surrey. This is my county. This is the team I love. This is the team I support. And with them decisions, as well as ECB contracts now probably only been 11 months of the year, and the franchise owners owning the players for a month of the year. I think we're in a little bit of dangerous waters. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying we're in a little bit of murky waters of which way the ship is going to sail, and whether it's going to get a little bit choppy, or we're going to end up with a nice, smooth, cool, calm transition. But it was always coming, wasn't it?
It was, and it's that time, Harmy. It's time for the final word. We've got 3 items for you. I'm going to start with one that I was commentating on yesterday. Darnay van Niekerk, former South African captain, added 47 in just 20 balls for South Africa in the second T20 international against Ireland, which is the highest partnership by a married couple in international cricket, because Darnay van Niekerk and Marizanne Kapp are officially wed. So 47 in 20 balls, and it was quite something to watch, let me tell you. And 2 other bits of news, Harmy. Alex Stewart has resumed as Director of Cricket at Surrey. And I don't want to end on a sad note, although it is sad, but we haven't mentioned Robin Smith, and I would rather do so in celebration of, I mean, he had his troubles in the last, 10, 15 years of his life. He had mental health issues, but he was in great spirits, like just a week before he passed away, and he visited the England team, and we should, I think, remember him with happy memories rather than sadness at his passing, which has still not been officially the reasons haven't been confirmed.
No, great news to see the gaffer back in Stewie, back where he belongs, and that'll be a smooth transition for the gaffer back into Surrey. And yes, you're right. I think we should be talking about Robin Smith, the judge, in such a positive way, because he had a positive impact on a hell of a lot of people, supporters that supported England, cricketers that played for that team, because everybody to a man has spoke about Robin Smith fondly in a way, going, do you know what, when I was a young player going into that dressing room, it was a difficult dressing room to go in with big, larger-than-life characters, and the one person that put their arm around us and made us feel so welcoming and so comfortable was Robin Smith. And that, for me, to have that on your tombstone, that means I was a good bloke, and Robin Smith was a good bloke. You speak to Mark Nicholas, who works with us in talkSPORT, great commentator, Sean Udall, who I love to bits, Shaggy, who's having his own personal struggles with Parkinson's. Whenever you go and hear in county dressing rooms of players of the past and teams of the past, they'll always have a story about characters. They've always got a story about one character. And more often than not, when you speak to people like Mark Nicholas and Sean Udall, they've all got Judge stories. They've all got Robin Smith stories, because he was a great bloke, great player, hero of mine growing up. That square cut was ridiculous. I was fortunate to play against him right at the start of my career. And he came in our dressing room afterwards, and he, shared a beer with David Boone, but made sure that everybody, because he was this large and life character, was so comfortable in his company. What a great man. And like you say, Andrew Flintoff invited him to the Lions last week, spoke very, very well. They all enjoyed his company, which they all will. And cricket in England lost an absolute legend last week.
You've been listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And naturally, we'll be back at a similar time next week to look ahead to the third Ashes Test in Adelaide and so much more. But for now, this has been another edition of Following On.